Today, we are going to be talking about this, the LoFlo frame from MikeX. Now, I was recently sent this alongside a KISS Ultra and the Voltara ESC. I'm going to be testing these on the channel and talking about the Voltara and KISS Ultra in the near future. But today, we're going to concentrate on this frame. Now, if you don't know what it is a custom 5-inch frame. And I think this is actually one of my favorite frames available today, but we're going to have to wait and see how I feel once I've flown it to see if that is actually the case. Now, just before we get into it, I do just want to say that I was sent over the frame and the electronics that you see here today to review on the channel. I was not paid to make this video. This video is not sponsored, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. Okay, so this is the LoFlo HD version 4. Now, to give you an idea of what's included in the kit, first of all, let me just get it all out. As you can see, it is all of the stuff you would expect with any usual frame. However, we have our mid-stroke bottom plate. We have top plate, perhaps? Not 100% sure. Sort of mid plate. We have our arms. We have our centerpiece. And then we have our camera plates, which go either side, which mount onto part of the top stroke mid plate. I'll explain that in a bit more when we actually get into it. Now, as you can see, there really is not a lot of parts here on this frame kit. It is one of the more basic frames that you'll find out there, in the sense of, from a design perspective, it's really simple and straightforward. Now, with regards to assembly of this frame, I don't actually have any instructions. I've not really looked. I've had a quick look at a picture of one that's put together from the website, but I'll be honest, it does look fairly straightforward. So I'm just gonna lay that there, and from the look of it, these arms go onto this bottom plate here, and they actually look like they lock in with these cutouts that are on the end of each arm, and they basically all pop in and fit in like that, and they lock together like that in the center. That's actually quite an interesting design. I like that. Then we have, I'm going to call this the mid plate. That's the bottom plate. This is the mid plate. So I'm going to suggest that then bolts over there like that. We've got captive nuts already built into that, which is really nice to see. You've then gonna have standoffs that go in the back there. You've got these camera plates up front, which actually lock into this sort of mid plate here. So I need to pop that in like that, and it locks in like that, just to show you that a bit more. Once it goes in, it's quite hard to get out, actually. So you've got a cutout there, which goes into that gap there, and a cutout at the front. And it just looks like it locks in like that, locks in like that. So that's then that front end partly designed. We've then got this piece here. Now, I've not really looked where this goes. I'm not actually sure where this goes, because this looks like this locks into there. And then that would lock in like that. And then you'd have your standoffs on the back there to hold it all up. And then this looks like, I'm not sure where this goes. I need to figure out what that does. The basics of putting it together look like that. I would have sort of expected this to be something at the top, like a plate up there or something, but it doesn't look like it's the case. So I need to go and have a look at where that seems to fit. But what I'm going to do is go and whack this together, and then I'll come back and show you it partly assembled without the top, and then we'll figure out where that goes. Okay, so I've got to this stage here. Now, I have actually found a build video for this online from MikeX FPV. I will link to it below. I didn't need it for everything, but it did answer the question of where did that piece of carbon fiber go? Now, if I just show you where we are overall. So, the arms go in and 4 screws go in on the outside. Now, you will need 4 screws for the inside for your stack. They do not include them as standard with this kit, so you will need to buy them separately. You then have that small piece of carbon fiber which goes there. It's like a locking piece for the front arms that goes in there. What's a bit strange about it is when you put this together, there are 4 longer screws that go into here. You'll then find 1 really short screw, and that is the screw that goes into this carbon fiber piece at the front. And then there is 1 longer screw left from the arms that goes into that section there, and that goes all the way through then into this post. On the back, you then put your 2 posts. These 3 are the shorter posts in the kit. You'll find that there are 3 long ones and 3 short ones. The 3 long ones are used for the front camera cage, whereas the short ones are used as the standoffs. Now, with regards to the cage at the front, it's fairly straightforward. They recommend you install these 2 only first of all. There is a 3rd one that goes in there, but you put that in after yourself manually. So what we're going to do is pop that into there. And then we will get this in. And then we will pop the other side on and pop some screws into there as well. And then that way we will be able to lock all of that in place as well. There is no Loctite on the screws of this kit, so if you do want to get everything nice and solid, you are going to need to install that manually. There are always sort of upsides and downsides to using Loctite. The upside to using Loctite is that it adds additional strength in the sense of you're not going to have screws that accidentally come loose. However, the downside is when you do actually need to remove screws, it's going to be a pain in the bum. Now, that 3rd post goes in there, but I'm not going to put that in a minute. Then, as you can see, we've got our posts here. So we're now in the position where we can install our top plate. This then goes into here, clips into this camera plate area here. It is quite tight, but it will go with a bit of fidgeting. There you go. You can see that clips in. And then you have 2 screws at the back, and then there's 1 screw down there that goes into the front. Now, I really like the look of this frame instantly. I like low-decked frames. This really reminds me of my old Thug frame, which I've got over there. I'll dig it out in a minute before the end of the video just to compare it. But that is a really low stack height on this. Just to give you an idea of how much you do have in here. You are talking... You're talking 16 mil to the very top. By the look of it. Let's just check that. Yeah, 16 mil stack height. So you're going to need to take that into account before doing it. But this is a really, I'm not going to say simple. It is a simple frame, but it's well engineered and well designed. And actually, I really like that. Now, for this build, we are going to be using the Voltara ESC as well as a KISS Ultra version 2. Now, these are not in these boxes. These are here. They're already out, ready to go. I'll cover these separately in another video, but these are absolutely designed to be paired really nicely with this frame. I'm going to have a separate video, as I've said, coming on this ESC especially, and we will be talking about the Ultra in that as well. Now, I've put my stack screws in. I've used 20 mil. Now, they do recommend 17, but I don't have any 17, and I've run out of 18. I've got some 20s, and I've checked, and the length seems okay. I don't think I'm going to have any problems. So, what we're going to do is install the ESC in first. Now, I'm going to solder everything up afterwards, obviously, but we're going to pop the ESC in and pop the flight controller there. And we're then going to install 4 of these. I'm not going to call them gummies because they're not gummies. They're threaded inserts that are rubber mounted threaded inserts. I'm not sure what the official term for these is. Shocking, I know. But we're going to screw 4 of these on. I have done this already and checked it, and it's just right on this ESC. There's no problems whatsoever. So we're going to screw them down just like that. And what they will then do, once they're down, nice and solid, there's a little bit of movement. There's plenty of clearance underneath as well. And then we're going to take our KISS Ultra. It's worth checking your front direction on your KISS Ultra because it does have an arrow for that. Just going to fold the wiring over like that. And then that's going to mount on the top there. I do have some plastic nuts. I'm just going to shove 2 on for the purpose of this video, just to show you the clearances. And then you can see that is the stack height there. It then leaves us a little bit of space in the back. It's not a very big frame, this, but you can get yourself some ear units in here. So for instance, if I want to grab myself a DJI, we can only just squeeze in an 03, although you're going to have to be careful with your battery cables if you do. You're going to probably need to go vertically with your battery cables if you do want to get an 03 in there. 03 camera will fit in the plates at the front as well, so it's not a problem. I probably might end up going 03 Lite on this one actually, or an 03 Ultra. That gives us just a little bit more space at the back. Same camera, obviously, so there's no real difference there, but it does give us a little bit more at the back if we do it that way. You can get a Vista in here as well. I don't think I'm going to install a Vista in this, but it is going to limit you on some ear units with regards to the Avatar HDs, for instance. As 03 will go in, Moonlight would basically be the same. Let me just grab one and check though. Now this is the GT, not the Moonlight, so I'm just going to pop that there. Technically, it will fit in there without the fan. Obviously, with the fan, it won't, but it does fit in if you wanted to try and get yourself a GT in there, but that's not really going to be ideal. However, if you did want to squeeze in an Avatar Moonlight, now this is attached to a gimbal at the moment, but I'm just really doing some sizing checks with regards to the VTX. It's got a bracket on the top and bottom, but it will go. It would go in, and you can see the space there, obviously, without this bracketry. With regards to the other Avatar ear unit, here is a naked one. You are going to be able to get it in, but again, space is going to be a little bit tight. You're not going to get a V1 in there, but you should be able to get a V2 in there just without too much trouble. Now at this point, I'm going to go away and build this up into a full quad, and then I'll come back and show you the outcome. Okay, now I'm at this stage of the build. Now this one is going to have a Vista in here with a standard camera. It's because I've got one laying round and I thought it would be a good idea in a frame like this. I don't need recording. 03 is a little bit heavy. I know there's not a lot in it with the Vista, but basically I have a spare one. Now, I've taken some advice from the people who make this gear with regards to layout, and they suggested that I install the ESC side on like I'm showing you here. This gives a bit of a cleaner setup. I do have a capacitor with a spike absorber installed as well. I do like using them, TVS diodes. We've got our XT60 on the side of the frame there, soldered up. Quite a short length on the cables, although it may still be a little bit long actually, but we're going to have to see. And then obviously we're going to mount the KISS Ultra on top. Now, obviously a frame like this is a little bit tight on space. You know, you don't have a huge amount of room in here to put in whatever you want, but there is plenty, especially when you lay it out like this. What I will then do with the motor wires when we bring them in is bring them around the posts and solder them backwards that way into the ESC that way, and I'll show you what that looks like once it's done. Okay, now just to show you around the build before I get it in the air. Now, it was never designed to be the cleanest of build. I've printed off some TPU pieces for the camera as well as an antenna holder up back. Obviously, for this build, as I've shown, we've used a Vista, and I've gone with a standard DJI camera because I had one spare. I didn't want to tear a quad apart to take a camera out of. I'm running a little bit low on original system cameras now, but the great thing with this one is it's going to give me that 120 frames a second. I'm going to actually use it on the goggles too, which means I'm not going to have WTF OSD, MSP OSD with all of the lovely sneaky fonts and all of that. We're going to be limited to the standard DJI one, but I will be flashing this back for the goggles V2 later on to have a look at the OSD for the Kiss Ultra in a little bit more detail. Now, the motors I ended up going with some spares that I had from Inch FPV. These are 2208s, and you can see that they are made by T-Motor. You can see the stack in there. Let me just show you from this side. Everything's nicely, tightly packed in. I've got the wiring all tidily cabled down. I've got my Express LRS receiver down there with just a little bit of gaffer tape holding that. And I've gone on the side then with the power cable. I've taped the capacitor to it. We're going to be going, obviously, horizontal, vertical, as you see it here with the battery, tank style. So then we've got our capacitor, and there's a short saver, or not a short saver, sorry, there is a TVS diode on here as well, which I really like to use. Spike absorbers, TVS diodes, whatever we want to call them. And then I've just used a generic battery strap that I've got laying around. So that's the build. Nothing particularly special. I've not put too much time into getting it as clean as I could. What you will notice is I have gone around the posts with the wires because I have gone 90 degrees off with the ESC. Overall, it's tidy enough. It doesn't need to be any cleaner than that. So now over the last couple of days, I've been doing some shakedown flights with this frame and this ESC and the flight controller just to get an understanding of how Kiss Ultra feels, how the Volterra is, and really what I think about the frame and setup. Now, I'm going to be covering Kiss Ultra and everything a lot more in the next video. But what I want to do now is just give you some audio and some flight commentary from me at the field after having 6 or 7 flights on this, on just some thoughts on the frame itself. Now, just to discuss some things with the frame. I really like this frame. I think it's a great design. I like compact frames. I like small frames. Obviously, you're seeing here the props in view, and that gives you the image. Obviously, it's not a recording frame for the likes of O3 and any of those kinds of systems, but it certainly is a freestyle frame. It's a nice amount of view over the props at the moment. Certainly not obtrusive over the image, but not completely out of view as well, as you can see. As for how the frame flies, it flies like a nice compact frame. Obviously, I'm not pushing it here. I can't talk about longevity. I can tell you what it's going to stand up like if you were to smash it into a wall. But what I can tell you is it flies like a nice compact frame. It doesn't have the weight you attribute to some of the bigger frames that we saw with the O3 system when it released. Again, all I'm doing here is getting a feel for this quad on the field. I don't want to bin it. It is soaking wet here today. The grass is absolutely dripping. There is water everywhere. So what I am doing is intentionally keeping away from the ground, if I'm honest. I just don't want to get near it. My feet are drenched just standing here now. But, oh God, way too much. God, I am quite out of practice. Haven't flown as much. I keep saying this every year. I've not remotely flown as much as I would have liked to have this year. I've just not, I seem to have not had the chance. That's really, you can see the big muddy pit there. Just doing intentionally. I do like this. This is one of my favourite quads. I'm telling you now, this is one of my favourite quads. Now, as I said there in the field, I really like this frame, and genuinely I do. I've always been a fan of really tight, compact frames. They are a bit of a pain in the ass to build. That's the case. However, the just feel you get from a nice, smaller, lightweight frame. You forget the difference at times, especially when you're flying a lot of bigger 5-inch quads, the Nazguls and them. The difference a really nice compact frame makes. You do obviously have the tank style setup with the battery on this. You're going horizontally, and that gives a bit of a different feel as well, just because of the weight distribution, especially compared to a longer frame. But honestly, this is flying incredibly well. And as I said there, this is one of my, if not my favorite flying quads. And that's not just the frame, that is also these two here. And I'm not going to get into these in this video. We're going to be covering them separately. We're going to have a video on the KISS Ultra and a video on the Volterra ESC as well. There is a hell of a lot to like here, especially just how easy it is out the box. But again, we'll cover that later on. Today is about the frame, and I think if you're looking to get yourself a really nice, tight, compact FPV frame, it is going to be worth a look. It isn't perfect in the sense of the kit you buy doesn't come with absolutely everything. You are going to need screws for your standoffs. You're going to need to be able to print your pieces for your camera as well as your antenna at the back as well. They are not included with it. So you do need to make sure that either you've got a 3D printer or you know someone with access to one who's going to be able to supply you those little additional parts that you are going to need. But other than that, absolutely love it. Now, with regards to getting this frame and the price, it is available to order on the store at kissultra.com, and it is available for €70. That price includes the main carbon fiber parts that you've seen here today, but it doesn't include the TPU parts that I had to print. Now, before I finish this video up, I just want to say one more thing on price. Whenever I talk about smaller volume, more customized frames like this, I always get comments from people saying, way too expensive. Why would you buy that? Lots of cheaper frames out there available. Yes, that is absolutely true, but you cannot compare this to something like the Mario 5 from SpeedyBee, which is mass produced. They are two entirely different things, and whilst they are both great frames, they are both offering you different things. You have lots of cheap clones of the Apexes out there, the SpeedyBee frames, and lots of frames for $20, $30, $40, and they're okay. But if you want something that has a more customized feel to it, something where a person has given you their vision of what an FPV frame should be like, this, the Inch FPVs and others, I really like these frames, but you are going to pay more for them because you are supporting much smaller volumes, a smaller design team, a smaller person behind it. It's not a group, a massive company, and you're paying for the fact that you're getting a much more customized product rather than something that is much more mass produced. But there is no point complaining about it. You don't have to buy it, but if you do want to buy it, the link will be in the description. Now, as I've said, I am also going to be releasing the videos on the KISS Ultra and the Volterra ESC in the near future. If you're interested in seeing them, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. If there are any questions or anything you have on this frame, please do let me know. Put them in the comments below and I will try and answer them. And finally, I just want to say, if you'd like to support the channel to allow us to keep making content in the future, please do consider checking out the links to my Patreon as well as Buy Me Coffee. It's only through the support of my Patreons I'm able to keep making content in this channel. And if you'd like to support us to allow us to keep making content in the future, please do check it out. I want to say a huge thank you to all of my Patreons. We would not be able to do this without your support. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe. I will speak to you soon.